Wake up! What's up guys, Ian here from Sleep Deprivation, and I'm doing a quick video on early game versus late game. Now, this is more playing as an early game team versus a late game team. I'm going to give you a quick example here that's a little bit embarrassing for me, but it's one of my previous ranked games where I did terribly. I was Freya, I went 2-8, and we lost in 26 minutes. I don't even think we surrendered. I think they just murdered us consistently. And Freya right now is very, very strong, so the fact that I lost at 2-8 makes it look not so good for me as a player overall. But here is where the kicker is. I wasn't originally supposed to be Freya. I was supposed to get to play an assassin. We picked up Freya early because we're like, hey, we can get our hands on Freya. We can have her as an ADC. It'll be really awesome because Freya right now is really strong. And then the guy who was ADC just decided not to communicate and ended up, just picking up Hou-Yi, and I got stuck with Freya jungle. Now, I haven't played a lot of Freya. As you can see, I have 113 worshippers, and that's after that match. And that match, by the way, was under a triple worshippers day, which I think I even used an item to give me double worshippers as well. So yeah, a lot of those worshippers came from that match, which is kind of sad. But going back to this match here, we have 3 late game mages on our team and a hunter that was building, attack based, so also relatively late game. We have Hel, Freya, and Thoth. Now, the reason why I call them late game is they are all not super strong early on, but once they get a good amount of core items online, then they start to become really dangerous. The problem is that means early game we don't have a lot of pressure. Oh, by the way, those helped solo, and they counterpicked it with Odin, which they weren't going up against Odin, they were going up against the Hercules. But anyone that knows anything about Odin basically knows that he makes Hel have a very bad time, because his ultimate prevents her from healing and prevents her from escaping, and he just gets thrown up there and give her a terrible, terrible time. So Odin also is one of the most early game gods there is, because his base damage on his abilities, which I'll pull him up right here. Give me a second. Is pretty nasty with his bird bomb. If you combine the Raven Shout and the jump, this ability has a base damage of, and when you add this together with the additional 25%, you're going to be doing a good 800 base damage, plus a good chunk of scaling as well. So considering that this guy was building, which honestly is a pretty terrible build, but building right into Bloodforge after boots, he was doing a lot of damage early game, which meant not only was he getting early kills, but he was able to clear camps a lot faster because he was getting us killed and applying a lot of pressure. I wasn't able to get the jungle camps. It was a really, really hard time. Now, with that being said, this is not something that we couldn't have won, but the problem is that our team, because of these 3 late game mages and a hunter that was building also more towards a late game build as well, building around basic attacks, we weren't playing like we were late game. When you're playing as a late game team, you have to play a little bit more passive. You have to do a lot of farming while under tower, not going into fights and stuff like that. And when you're a duo lane and your jungle is a Freya and their jungle is an Odin, you need to realize, hey, the mid lane is getting pressured out by this Janus Odin, and the Freya is getting pressured out by this Odin as well. So don't expect a lot of ganks early on. That's not what Freya is good for. She doesn't gank early. That's not her thing. She's not that strong. Until she has, roughly like, once I had these items on here, yeah, I was starting to be good then, but the problem was it was too little too late. They already had a level 20 Cernunnos, they already had a level 20 Janus, they already had a level 20 Odin. It was just it was too little, too late, and I wasn't able to fight them 5 levels down and 5,000 gold down in case of the Odin. It was already game over. So by the time I got in line, we'd already lost. And, you know, the Thoth didn't even get online. Like, he got completely shut down. It was a nightmare. So, I guess the main reason I'm bringing this up is that it's not necessarily bad to build a late game team, but if your team isn't going to play properly in order to adjust for it, then it can make things very difficult. Also, in a lot of cases of, if you have, you know, a late game mid laner like Thoth, and a late game jungle like Freya, it tends to help if you have other lanes that perhaps are a little bit more early game that are able to be stronger and more independent. Example, if Hell would have picked a better solo laner, one that, you know, wouldn't have needed as much help from me, in other words, anything other than Hell, that probably would have gone a little bit better. Also, if our dual lane would have played, you know, maybe a little bit more passively, knowing that, hey, we're not going to get these ganks, let's focus on farm, that could have helped too. But all around, we didn't do that. We got creamed, and I'm not saying it's just their fault. I obviously wasn't playing that well either. But this is just one of those situations where you need to have an understanding as a team, and not just yourself, but your whole team as well, that if you're going to be picking these late game gods, you need to adjust your strategy as a team to accommodate. Now, they did counterpick us hard with the Odin jungle, so it was pretty rough for us. And it would have been rough for us for the entire game, because even in the late game, that Odin ult would have been pretty rough, especially for the Hell. But other than that, the main thing to remember is that early game gods, while they can be great to have the advantage, especially in this situation, they're going to fall off more towards the end. If we had all gotten to the point where we're all max level and we all full items, this game would have flipped around a lot more in our favor. If we wouldn't have let them get such a big gap, such a big lead, it would have been a lot higher in our favor. I mean, they had 70,000 gold to our 51,000. They were miles ahead of us in level and gold, and we couldn't get to late game. And that's what it comes down to, is with a late game team, if you get to late game, then you're going to destroy, you're going to wreck, you're going to murder. But if you don't get to the late game and you let those early game gods just run all over you as a team because you don't adjust your playstyle, that's when something like this happens. So, all in all, remember, just pay attention to your team compositions, adjust your strategies accordingly. Maybe pick one early game god to try and help balance things out and help carry the team in the early game to make it so that you can get more towards the late game. That tends to help out a lot. But the important thing is communication, understanding where your god sits in early game to late game, where your teammates sit in early game to late game, and how you need to play to make sure that it all works out in your favor. Anyways, that's all for this video. Just a quick little, I guess, sort of rant in a sense. But if you have any questions or ideas, something you want me to talk about in the future, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to, you know, like and subscribe and hit that notification squad bell thing as well. And I'll see you guys next time.